Very serious matters across the course of the week, and we've been getting in dribs and drabs more information and, of course, more statements from all and sundry, whether it's the AFL, of course, the Sydney Swans, the players themselves, and you have to be living on Mars not to be up to date with the... I think that the best way to describe it is Sydney Swans scandal. Is that fair, Laura, the best way to describe it?
I mean, it is really. I'm a little bit reticent with all the salacious headlines, I think, when you report on stuff like this, just because it is traumatising for a lot of people. And it's not just the people involved. It can be triggering for a lot of other sexual assault victims. And so that's why when you report on this sort of thing, I'm very careful with the kinds of words that I choose to use, because it is triggering, and that's just the way that it is, unfortunately. But in terms of that investigation, the latest is that we know detectives have headed to New South Wales now to continue their questioning of the 5 players who've been named. So that investigation is ongoing. It'll take some time before they reach a conclusion either way, and as we've stipulated, there's no charge, no arrest against any of those 5 players at the moment. But in terms of what the club's done yesterday, obviously they fronted the media. They apologised to everyone. They've sort of done that again today by putting out a letter to the community as well.
It feels like their first statements were legally briefed and missed the mark. And since then, they've been a lot stronger and on the correct tone. Is that a fair assessment, do you think, the way that they've developed through the week?
I have to say, I think a lot of people initially, and we spoke about this on Tuesday night, Jim, underestimated the reaction that this would get in terms of how it was initially reported. And a lot of that backlash came from women. That's not surprising. Some of it came from men. But I actually think it's been a broader education for people in how we should be looking at treating these things and having these conversations when we're talking about sensitive issues, when we're trying to consider that it does affect a lot of people beyond just the people involved, and that we need to be more aware of the alleged victims at the centre of this and just offering them, which is very hard in this case, some privacy, which is what they're entitled to. But when something like this is so public, that's even harder. So this letter again today, I think, has come out because there's been a focus on the AFLW side, having to play this weekend, what the week would have been like for them at the club with all of this going on. And so Sydney Swans Chairman Andrew Pridham and CEO Matthew Pavlich have put out this letter saying, again, we apologise, we understand the hurt many of you are feeling. We hope the sanctions and decisive action we've taken demonstrate the seriousness with which we've treated this matter. We want to acknowledge the impact this has had, including on our AFLW players. We're looking ahead to our first AFLW home game this Sunday, a historic doubleheader at the SCG. It's only the second time that team has played for premiership points at the SCG. It's a significant moment for our athletes who've worked so hard. We encourage our members and fans to support the team, give them the recognition they deserve, as we aim to set a record for the biggest Sydney Swans AFLW crowd in Sydney. So what they're doing now is there's been this sort of groundswell of a campaign to get people along to the AFLW game, which is the game before the men's, to show support in that way for a team that's had a pretty tough week. So,
and we've seen shots of them trying to reunite the club. The footage
at
of
training,
the big circle around. Of course, the W players, the men's players and stuff, and clearly not brand control, but they're trying to piece their club back together internally.
Yeah, and I think we're at a point now where we can talk a little bit about what they're going to do from here. I know we wanted to be very sensitive to speaking about other issues and how serious it was before we delved into the football part of it. But the reality is that something like this, I would imagine, and you've both been inside the 4 walls in locker rooms, would be very, very difficult to deal with as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Just while we're talking about it, I think this conversation in itself it is uncomfortable, and I think it should be uncomfortable, and this is probably, of my time at Carlton respects a leading part in the club. The statistics that sit behind the scene against violence against women are really ugly in Australia specifically. Look, you're probably more versed on what they are exactly this year. I think it's 1 in 5 women have
over the age of 15
have been subject to sexual violence, and we've lost I think Meg was saying it's up to 48 or 49 people this year to their partner. So like the numbers that sit behind the scenes in this situation are are really damning on us as Australians. And I think one thing I probably learnt this week across media coverage, and it's been an interesting week being part of it, but the importance of language and I was looking at Daisy Pearce in front of the media the other day, and that message around just be a good person and the influence that you can have on other people by being a good person and having the correct language and having the victims at the heart. I think that's a really important part of this piece. Before I went on to the first, I wanted to make sure I touched on that. The footy side of it, and what we were talking about just before, Jim, this would have sent a huge sort of earthquake through the culture of the football, the men's program specifically, because ultimately the players that have that are in this situation have really let their teammates down. As much as they've let down a lot of people, but they've let down their teammates, which internal football clubs, the culture is built off trust. And once you lose that trust in a playing group, it can unravel really, really quickly. And that's the bit that they're on the eve of finals. Their team's going to have disruptions, but that trust has been lost across the group. And taking those 5 players out, that doesn't just doesn't heal
fix
straight
everything.
away. No, that doesn't fix it at all. Yeah. So these questions are going to be asked internally, and to the point around trying to galvanise the group back together. That's the right step. Whether it actually comes to fruition this quickly before finals, I've got serious doubts that they're going to be able to perform well over this weekend or into the finals, given the week that's been.
Andrew Pridham's statement, which you articulated, Laura, they also door-stopped CEO Matthew Pavlich on his way into the club today.
Morning, Pav. What's the message to supporters ahead of this weekend?
Keep supporting us. We're sorry that we're putting you through this, and it's been a really challenging day for them, for us, for all our people who we care deeply about. But we've got 2 games to look forward to. On Sunday, the double header. The girls are really excited about their match, and we're really supporting them. They had a great game last weekend against Adelaide, and we're excited to have a huge crowd at the SCG.
What's worried that not enough supporters will turn up for them?
No, not at all. No, they're really excited. We know that a couple of actions of our players are really poor. They've made poor decisions, but we know that our fans and our people will support our teams.
Pav, what's next from here?
Particularly the women.
Yeah, I think there will be a groundswell of support. Firstly, they are very well supported, their W program up there. Sydney have done a really good job in their women's program, and I do envisage they will get a big turnout, Laura. And I think what we're all touching on as well is it's unfortunate we're still talking about that, and you highlighted on Tuesday and many others of the frustrating levels that they're still talking about. I think Kate McCarthy said that she's tired of talking about it, but I think that has been a big shift in my time in football, is that it would never actually be a conversation.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. Like, I am tired, but I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not, because I think these are conversations that still need to be had. And as you mentioned, Jimmy, if this is the sort of alleged behaviour that we're still seeing in this environment, those conversations still need to be had. It just wears you down. It's more the fatigue of understanding the broader issue in this country and the fact that we're sort of not making a lot of headway as a nation in terms of addressing the scope of the issue. But yeah, I'd support everyone who is in a position to go to get around the W team. They did have a great win last weekend over Adelaide. They deserve all the support they can get, and I mean, by extension, some of the other Sydney Swans teammates do as well. I mean, not everyone's
implicated in this.
Not everybody's implicated in this, and that would be hard for them too, because we're speaking so much about their culture, and there would be people within the 4 walls that want to say, that's not me. I don't do those things.